White people. How can you say white men are the major threat to the world? Same white people. Check our history. Don't mess with the whites. So this is an observation I made a few years ago, and it just came with this shorty just coming into this thought where I condense these thoughts and I expand on them in this series. But with this thought in specific, there is something talking about in society saying, okay, look, this whole idea of white guilt or blaming all these things on white people in general as a race, yes, I think that is an absurd thing. People have sucked in the past. People sucked a lot more in the past. People will still suck today. And there's still going to be people who suck in the future. I think part of the reason with the white people in general, Europeans, part of the reason they seem to suck so much is first, if you're listening to this, chances are you're living in a Western country, a westernized country. You could be listening to this in Africa, but even that's westernized. In the sense that it had a lot of Western influence. The language you're speaking, most of the culture, behaviors, there's a lot of things that are going to be a lot influenced by that. It has exported that culture, so it's exported its history as well. And that is the key thing. The history is one of the key parts. I had this separate video talking about how white slavery is always going to be the worst one because white people kind of snitched on themselves, specifically the United States of America. They've done these great Hollywood films and categorize these things, shows like Roots. They're doing these documentaries on History Channel, all these things, where they detail how they actually did all these things. And it's a double-sided sword because part of this is the fact that they know about this, the fact that it's aware, the fact that the society is aware about, gives some level of guilt, gives some level of self-knowledge where they can be like, okay, let's avoid doing these things again because look how horrific this was. This was horrible stuff. Yet you have certain cultures where they don't actually have the history of that. They don't actually keep track of the steps that happened to lead them to those places. And then when you don't have that, just imagine if something happened in your life. You did something as a kid, and then it was cataloged, and then you see it as an adult, and you're like, okay, look, let me avoid doing those things. But then if you all of a sudden just lost all memory of it, you just didn't have memory, you would be likely to repeat it again. So those people who don't have a history, some places don't have a history, they don't have the ability to be held accountable, to hold themselves accountable. They can just make up their history and make up all the glorious things they did in the past and ignore all the horrific things they might have done. They just have that question mark to fill it in with whatever they want. So there is that aspect. And you look at the situation, just like right now you look at black on black violence in the United States of America, and the majority of people that actually do kill black people are other black people. And then you look at the situation where people are saying, okay, look, right now, like black people are killing white people at a higher rate. But no, they're killing there's more black on white violence than there is white on black violence, percentage-wise, per capita or whatever. But there's still a lot more white on white violence than there is black on white violence, just like the inverse. That is one thing that is clear. You look at history, most of the actual best cataloged wars, part of this whole thing where they say, oh, you're blaming white people as a major threat. And then some of the people who are more getting the pride or getting more of a pushback to this whole like white people bad, like white people are blamed for everything, are now saying, look, we actually are going to rise up. The rise of the Saxon or something. Like, oh, once you actually rile us up, look at what we do. Look at the bombs we dropped to Japan. Look at all these wars that we've done. But you look at most of those wars, and it's mostly Europeans against other Europeans. It's mostly that general loose definition of Caucasians, white people, against other white people. Those horrors and things that were being done were against that. You look at things that happened in World War II, and even in that case, the certain population that was subjected to the Holocaust, they were Europeans in general. They're European Jews. You can go to the thing where you can say there were Semites, and when people talk about anti-Semitic, then I'm like, wait, aren't like Semitic people? Isn't it just in that area, like the Arabs? There's Muslim Semites. There's also Jewish Semites, and then now there's Negro Jewish people. There's Hispanic Jewish people. You can switch to the actual belief system and things like that. There's also an ethnicity where it's like goes into the genetic, and then there's actually like a culture in it. So there's other aspects of it. But anyway, it's mostly Europeans and Europeans. So when you look at those histories of all these things, and these people are like, yes, we're going to rise up and we're going to terrorize this. We are actually the most deadly race. So you need to respect us. You need to stop talking to us because finally we're going to stand up and we're like, no, we've had enough. So in one hand, they say, don't blame us for actually being the major threat. And then they actually go on the other hand and say, if you keep blaming us, we will show you that we are the major threat, that we are the biggest threat. So this is just something that I saw with the dichotomy here, with a little double thing that I see. I don't know what I'm going to call it. It's not a dichotomy. Is it dichotomy? Is it hypocrisy? I don't know what it is. It's some cognitive dissonance type of related thing where they say one thing, don't call us this, but we are this. We're just choosing not to be this for now. So some of the same people were saying this. Now, this isn't everywhere. This isn't everyone. Everybody who says all should go die in a fire. And I'm saying this. This is just something that I had noticed being said in certain circles by certain people who said this thing in a similar way. So like, share, subscribe. There's probably going to be some dislikes on this. I'm not saying all, because I've made some videos like this where I talk about something like this and then I get flagged down. It's like, oh, community standards. Just, come on. This is just an observation. This is just an observation about specific people in certain communities. Okay? Like, share, subscribe. Links to a merchandise store as well. I think I'll put on the screen, if I remember, this whole thing with the WYPIPO, where it's like an optional thing where you can go like on the checklist and pick different things about the WYPIPO thing. And WYPIPO, again, I need to clarify with that, is a term that is more just tongue-in-cheek for certain sort of white people. This is not every single white person. Again, you understand. You understand the times that we live in. You understand why I'm making these clarifications. Thank you. Till next time. Goodbye.